안녕하세요.
Seoul's night sparkled with neon lights reflecting on the rain-wet asphalt. The city center never slept, and the imposing Min Group building stood out among the skyscrapers, its illuminated logo dominating the horizon. Kang Min-ho, the young and powerful CEO, strode through the luxurious company lobby with measured steps and an impassive gaze. His impeccable dark suit reinforced his aura of authority, and his presence demanded immediate respect. Yet, despite carrying his family's name like an empire on his shoulders, there was something in him that still felt trapped in a life not entirely his own. On the other side of the lobby, Yoon Ji-yoon was finishing up cleaning the polished floor, her simple uniform contrasting with the surrounding luxury. Her brown hair was tied up in a slightly messy bun, with a few loose strands falling over her sweaty face. Her tired eyes betrayed the long double shift between studies and work, yet there was still a spark in them, a reflection of hope. Her dream of studying business administration seemed distant, but she refused to give up. Then fate intervened. Min-ho, engrossed in reviewing a report on his tablet, took an inadvertent step into the area Ji-yoon had just cleaned. His foot slid on the wet floor, and for a moment, the billionaire lost his balance. The vision he always controlled so firmly blurred as he felt his body falter. Instinctively, Ji-yoon dropped her mop and reached out her arms to steady him. He managed to regain his footing in time, but not before leaning heavily on her shoulders. For a brief moment, the two were incredibly close. Min-ho's sophisticated, woody cologne mingled with the gentle scent of lavender that Ji-yoon carried. Time seemed to slow down as their eyes met. Ji-yoon felt her heart race at being so close to the most powerful man in the company. Min-ho, for his part, was momentarily surprised. Her gaze was not one of fear but of genuine concern. There was no pretense, no hidden motive, just a sincere impulse to help. I'm sorry, Ji-yoon stuttered, quickly pulling away and bowing in apology. I should have put up a warning sign. Min-ho blinked a few times, emerging from his brief daze. His expression soon returned to its usual cold and calculating demeanor. However, inside, he felt something unusual, a spark of curiosity. Are you all right? He asked, his voice deep and controlled. Ji-yoon was taken aback. No one from upper management ever addressed her, much less asked if she was okay. Yes, I'm fine, don't worry, sir. He nodded but lingered a second longer than necessary before walking away. Ji-yoon swallowed hard, sensing a strange tension in the air. The tension was broken when one of the directors hurried over. Mr. Kang, the board is waiting for you. Min-ho diverted his gaze from Ji-yoon and, regaining his usual composure, headed for the elevator without looking back. Yet something inside him remained unsettled. In the following days, Min-ho found himself distracted. Between meetings and negotiations, he kept recalling her expression, how her gaze was so sincere and free of malice. It was rare to encounter someone like that in his world. Ji-yoon, too, felt that something had changed. She tried to ignore it, but every time she stepped into the lobby, she remembered the feeling of Min-ho's gaze upon her. Even though they came from different worlds, fate seemed determined to cross their paths once again. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions for Ji-yoon. She did her best to avoid the lobby during the times when Min-ho usually passed by, but the memory of his intense gaze still lingered in her mind. Meanwhile, the CEO of Min Group found himself frequently distracted, scolding himself for thinking so much about a simple employee. One afternoon, while Ji-yoon was organizing cleaning supplies, she heard raised voices coming from the adjacent corridor. Curious, she moved closer and discreetly peered. Two suited men were arguing fiercely. I told you we couldn't close that contract without analyzing the risks, one of them said in an agitated tone. That's not up to you. If the CEO decides we proceed, there will be no further discussion. Min-ho's name was mentioned several times, and Ji-yoon realized that something serious was unfolding. She wasn't sure what to do, but a bad feeling gripped her. Before she could retreat, a deep voice echoed down the corridor. What are you doing, just standing here? Min-ho appeared, his presence dominating the space. The men quickly bowed, but Ji-yoon, startled, dropped a bucket, drawing unwanted attention to herself. Min-ho's eyes immediately met hers. The CEO showed no surprise, but a hint of interest flashed in his gaze. He slowly approached, while Ji-yoon desperately tried to pick up the bucket and escape the scene. "You again?" he murmured, crossing his arms. Ji-yoon blushed deeply. I wasn't listening," she stammered quickly, realizing too late that her denial only confirmed her guilt. Minho raised an eyebrow and sighed. "Are you sure about that?" She nodded quickly, too shy to meet his penetrating gaze. Minho didn't respond immediately. He studied Ji-yoon for a long moment before taking a handkerchief from his pocket and offering it to her. "You're wet." Ji-yoon glanced at her wet, flushed hands and accepted the handkerchief hesitantly. Their fingers brushed for a brief moment, and she felt a strange shiver run down her spine. "If you don't want to be caught eavesdropping, be more discreet next time, Miss Yoon." Ji-yoon froze. Did he really know her name? Then, without another word, Minho turned and walked away, leaving her alone with her heart pounding and the lingering feeling that this encounter would not be the last. The Min Group building was in an uproar. Rumors had begun to circulate among the employees about CEO Kang Min-ho and the young cleaning staff member Yoon Ji-yoon. The glances that had once passed unnoticed were now the subject of hushed whispers and curious stares. Ji-yoon tried to ignore the gossip, but she knew it wasn't easy to go unnoticed in a world that didn't accept her. Up on the company's penthouse, Min-ho faced his own challenges. The board of directors had called an emergency meeting, making it clear that his demeanor should better reflect his status. His father, Kang Dae-jung, entered the room with an expression laden with disapproval. "Minho, I hope these rumors are unfounded," he said, crossing his arms. "A cleaning staff member? That is unacceptable." Minho maintained his cold expression, facing his father without hesitation. "My relationship with any employee does not interfere with the management of the company, father. No one has the right to dictate my personal life." The board exchanged glances, some uncomfortable, others clearly irritated. The vice president, a middle-aged man named Park Sundae-jae, cleared his throat before speaking. "Minho, we understand your position, but the image of the company is at stake. Your name is a direct reflection of Min Group." Minho snorted in disbelief. "If my competence as CEO is measured by my personal relationships, then perhaps we're focusing on what really doesn't matter." His father slammed his hand on the table. "That's enough, Minho. It's been decided. You will put an end to this absurdity now." Minho clenched his fists, restraining his anger, but he said nothing further at that moment. He knew he needed to act strategically. Later that night, Ji-yoon was walking along the street after her shift. The day had been unbearable, filled with judgmental stares from all sides. She felt crushed by the harsh reality surrounding her. However, as she rounded a corner, she found Minho waiting beside his car. "Minho, what are you doing here?" He approached, gently taking her hands in his. "We need to talk, Ji-yoon." She noticed the seriousness in his eyes and felt a chill run down her spine. "I already know what they're saying about me, about us," she said, trying to pull away. "I don't want you to lose everything because of me." Minho gently cupped her face, making her look directly at him. "I'm not a man who gives up easily. I choose you, Ji-yoon, but I need to know if you're willing to fight for us too." Tears threatened to fall from her eyes. Her heart was torn between fear and love. But at that moment, as she gazed into Minho's determined eyes, she saw an unwavering resolve. He was willing to fight, and she was too. "Yes, Minho," she whispered. "I'm with you." The cold night wind blew around them, yet neither of them felt it. Together they knew that this battle was only just beginning.